here's an article here. It says Baroness Ashton puts Europe and Britain on a collision course, call to give Brussels a seat on the UN Security Council. So it says Baroness Ashton is due to attend a debate in which European Parliament members will call for the EU, the super Soviet of Europe, to have a seat on the UN Security Council as an actual entity, not a group of nations, you see, which will do away with Britain's seat and France's seat and everybody else's seat eventually. Labour peer Baroness Ashton, a baroness in this day and age, 21st century, right? The unelected head of the European Union's new global diplomatic corps is poised to threaten Britain's position and influence at the United Nations. Last week, she was parachuted into her £313,000 a year Brussels job by Gordon Brown in 2009, convinced the UN General Assembly to give the EU something special status. It was ambassador status. It was enhanced status. Anyway, it says this means that she and other unelected Eurocrats, including European Council President Herman Van Rompuy, will enjoy nearly all the privileges and powers of the representatives of a sovereign state at the United Nations, such as addressing the Assembly and taking part in debates. And I should add, he's sitting at the top table too, getting the special wines. Ashton is also expected to attend a debate in Strasbourg next week in which members of the European Union will call for the EU to be given a seat on the UN Security Council. This puts her on a collision course with Foreign Secretary William Hague, who says he's determined to prevent the EU acting as if it were a nation state with a national foreign policy. Well, that was the whole point of creating it, to get rid of all the old nations. And that's happening, by the way. They're all deculturalized, multiculturalized, and no culture at all. And that's part of the strategy, because when you have nothing to remember, to fight for good things, then you fight for nothing. And then they can do with you as they please. But who is this baroness, eh? And into Wikipedia, and it's quite a funny thing, it says here, former Home Secretary Charles Clarke said, Cathy is a bit surprised, and so is everyone else at her promotion. I've seen Cathy in action and I have great respect for her. She's excellent at building good relations with people and a good negotiator. That means she's a psychopath. On the other hand, critics say she's likely to be out of her depth, never having been elected to any office in any government. Never been elected. For example, on her appointment, the associate editor of The Spectator and former editor of BBC Radio 4's Today programme, Rod Little, wrote, never elected by anyone anywhere, totally unqualified for almost every job she has done. She's risen to her current position presumably through a combination of down-the-line Stalinist political correctness and the fact she has the charisma of a caravan site on the Isle of Sheppey. That's like a trailer site. That's her charisma. And other ones say she's a complete disgrace and all the rest of it, but she is a good, strong Stalinist, and that's why the Labour government pushed her to the top. And then she turns around by the ones who pushed her and tries to get them even higher too into the European Union on a personal basis, like Tony Blair. That's how the system works with psychopaths. You pat my back and I'll pat yours. But there you go. They're really going at it, and also. He's another great blockbuster as they're doing all this stuff. I've talked before about how, I think a year or 2 years ago, how they plan to carve up the countries so they can't get back together again. It's the same technique, remember, they did with Germany at the end of World War II. They carved it in half. And that was designed to happen during World War II by Hopkins and others who wrote about it in their memoirs. And that way they'd never have nationalism again. It says here in this article here, fury erupted last night after a European Union plot to carve up Britain by setting up a cross-channel region was exposed. See, they're setting up regionalism through the United Nations across the world. Canada, for instance, will be carved up too, and even bits of the States will be joined with Cuba and be separate entities from the rest of the country. Anyway, senior Tories condemn plans to merge southern England and northern France into a territory called Arc-Manche, complete with its own flag. Brussels chiefs have already earmarked millions of pounds for lavish projects designed to give the zone its own identity. Schemes include a £7.6 million cross-channel network of cycle paths, that's wonderful, because nobody's going to be driving except, the big limousines that carry the bureaucrats back and forth. A £2 million travelling exhibition of contemporary artworks, and even a bizarre international tour by circus clowns costing £5.5 million. That's just how they squander your cash. Tory Cabinet Minister Eric Pickles yesterday revealed details of the plan inherited by his Whitehall department from the previous Labour government. And then you've got the community secretary. See, you've all got communities now. You don't have countries anymore. You've got little communities. He said, Labour ministers have been caught red-handed conspiring with European bureaucrats to wipe England off the map and replace our historic boroughs, counties and cities with transnational Euro regions. It's already happened to a few already. And maybe a couple of months ago, an Irish guy asked me about that. And I says, it's the same with Ireland. They've got them ready to join with other nations. Scotland's to merge, I think, with Norway, I believe. And I guess they'll try and eventually get us all to change their language into some pidgin Norwegian or English or something like that.